This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. When Lin's expression changed slightly, and he chuckled. I'm just paying attention. Who asked you to be so extraordinary? I'm so envious and jealous of you. I didn't think it would really come in handy. Is this your good luck or your bad luck? Good and bad luck are not constant, Yunxiao said with a smile. They change according to the situation, place, and person. However, Brother Wenlin, you think too highly of me. There are actually people from the Biming family? He formed a sword seal with his fingers and slashed it across the void. The space several hundred meters away twisted faintly, and several rays of light scattered under the sword light. They flew down, and 3 men appeared beside Wenlin and the others. One of them had a cold expression and was waving a paper fan in his hand. His eyes were cold. The 2 people behind him had dirty faces and disheveled hair. They were extremely ugly, and one of them even had snot on his face. It was simply unbearable to look at. The young master with the paper fan said softly, "You're quite something, to be able to find my hiding place. I wonder if your strength is as powerful as your soul." The extremely ugly man behind him said, "How do you know that we are from the Biming family?" Yunxiao touched his nose and said with a wry smile, "My skin is a little sensitive to the northern dark chill. It's easy for me to get goosebumps." The 3 of them were slightly stunned and frowned, not knowing if he was telling the truth. When Lin said, "I'm determined to get that sunset cloud mirror, so I naturally have to be more comprehensive. As long as you hand over the mirror, I'll take my men and leave immediately. We'll pretend that we never came here, so as to avoid hurting our relationship." "As long as you leave with your men immediately," Yunxiao said with a faint smile, "I'll pretend that you've never been here, and I'll forget about this matter." "Humph, you don't know what's good for you." The man from the Red Moon City shouted coldly, "Lord Wenlin, there's no need to waste your breath on him. Just take down these 2, and everything will be settled." Without waiting for Wenlin to speak, his figure flickered, turning into a ray of light and attacking. The dozen or so people of the Red Moon City also attacked at the same time. The space trembled, and all the power gathered toward the 2. "Give me this peak, Marshal Venerable," Yunxiao said. "You can have fun with those minions." He took a step in the air, and his figure disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he appeared behind the leader of the Red Moon City, and the cold sword in his hand swept out. What? Teleportation? Everyone was shocked. When Lin's expression changed slightly as he thought to himself, he's indeed an 8th-tier alchemist. No wonder he can counter me with his divine sense. Is he from the Sea of Soul formation? Yunxiao's sword was so powerful that the man could not avoid it. Moreover, the sword's freezing attribute had locked the space, and everyone could only watch the sword cut into the man's body. A sneer appeared on the face of the leader of Red Moon City. Wherever the sword light passed, the body began to disintegrate gradually, turning into light blue lightning. Lightning? Yunxiao was taken aback for a moment, but then he immediately understood. The Jiang family of the Red Moon City was also a branch that had separated from the North Scorpion sect back then. It was very normal for them to keep this supreme cultivation technique. However, it was the first time that they had seen someone else use it, so they still felt a little strange. The Jiang family's lightning transformation technique is indeed an amazing technique. The young master of Biming Dark Palace waved his paper fan and nodded. Lord Wenlin is too careful. This move is unparalleled under the martial supreme realm. The solemnness on Wenlin's face did not decrease. He smiled bitterly and said, "I don't think it's that simple. I'll have to trouble young Master Junjin to help us later." Oh. Biming Junjin's face was filled with disbelief. Even he did not have a good way to withstand this thunderbolt transformation, so he did not believe that Yunxiao could block it. On the other side, Luo Qingyun was engaged in a fierce battle with the dozen or so disciples of Red Moon City. The spearlight swept across everything and suppressed all of them, giving him the upper hand. At the same time, he looked at Yunxiao with a horrified expression. You also know the technique of transforming your body into lightning of the Jiang family. You should be in despair, right? The leader of the Red Moon City suddenly laughed and said, "It's impossible to suppress the body of lightning without the Emperor Qi of the Nine Heavens. This move is invincible under the martial sovereign realm. Go to hell." His hands suddenly formed a seal, and his body suddenly swelled up, turning into a big blue fatty. He took a deep breath, roared, and spat out tens of thousands of thunderbolts from his mouth. His body also instantly became thin as the thunderbolts were spat out. Humph. Yunxiao snorted and said, "Is the Red Moon City also a frog at the bottom of a well? The world's martial arts are as vast as the ocean, and anyone with a bit of intelligence would not dare to lightly say the word invincible a lot." He held his sword horizontally in front of him and poured his spiritual energy into the sword. Without any fancy moves, he directly stabbed the sword towards the lightning and shouted, "Song of the Green Lotus Sword." The energy on the sword fluctuated and 9 lotus flowers bloomed. Each lotus flower was pale golden color and repelled the thunderbolts spat out by the opponent. They turned into 9 sword chi and slashed down. What? The eyes of the leader of the Red Moon City were about to pop out of their sockets. His eyes were as wide as eggs, and he even forgot to dodge and defend when he saw the 9 sword energies. Bang bang bang. The 9 rays of sword chi slashed directly into his body of lightning. Blood burst out with each blow, and his body was directly split open. Only then did the leader of the Red Moon City realize that his body of lightning had been broken and he no longer had any advantage. How did this happen? His heart was filled with shock. For so many years, he had never failed to transform his body into lightning. This was a move that could sweep away anything below the martial supreme realm. How could it be broken? He could faintly feel that the 9 wounds had not only split open his body, but they also seemed to have condensed into runes that sealed his vital qi circulation. There are too many martial arts that can break this body turning into lightning. It's laughable that a group of frogs in the well can't speak in the sea. Yunxiao took a step forward and thrust the sword out again. 3 golden tadpole-like characters emerged on it, and as the sword pierced into the man's body, an unparalleled soul attack rushed directly into the man's spiritual altar and sea of consciousness, like a soul storm, instantly obliterating his divine sense. Ah! The leader of the Red Moon City only had time to scream before his body was sent flying hundreds of meters away, twitching on the ground. His body had not died, but his soul had been destroyed, and he had become an idiot in this life. Everyone was instantly stunned and broke out in a cold sweat. In the blink of an eye, the leader of the Red Moon City had gone from having the absolute advantage to being completely defeated. This visual effect was too shocking. Luo Qingyun's face darkened. Yunxiao had already crippled his opponent, and this was a situation where they would not rest until one of them was dead. He made up his mind, and the long spear in his hand turned into the shape of a dragon. An unparalleled spear power spread out and killed all the people of Red Moon City in a few moves. Wen Lin's eyes were filled with shock again. He stared at Luo Qingyun's spear with a serious expression. You dare to kill everyone in the Red Moon City? Baiming Junjin was stunned for a moment before he recovered. This is Red Moon City. Were these 2 people's brains fried? Young Master Junjin. Wen Lin's expression was grave. Please help me take down these 2 people. Only then did Baiming Junjin gradually calm down. He said in a serious voice, "It seems that Lord Wen Lin's concerns are not baseless. However, no matter how strong they are, they have reached their end. Ugly and uncouth guardians, please make your move," he said to his back. At this moment, he was not only thinking about helping Wen Lin, but judging from Yunxiao's age, they were undoubtedly here to participate in the arena tournament. The strength they had just shown was too shocking. If he eliminated them now, he would have one less powerful opponent. The 2 extremely ugly people, one was called ugly and the other was called vulgar, but they were indeed worthy of their names. They're strong, the man said lazily. But they're still ants in the 8 desolates. Is it okay for us 2 martial sovereigns to fight them? Isn't that too much of a bully? Don't underestimate these two guardians, especially that Li Yunxiao, Wen Lin said seriously. The disciple of Red Moon City was a peak martial venerable and had cultivated the divine ability to transform his body into lightning, but he was killed by him with a single sword strike. Don't be careless. From what I see, it's clearly the sword in his hand that's strange. That's definitely a 9th tier profound armament without a doubt. A fanatical look flashed through the coarse fellow's eyes. Even he didn't have a 9th tier profound armament, so how could a mere revered martial artist be worthy of it? It's not just that sword. I think there's something wrong with that spear too. Just now, when the spear moved like a dragon, my big drinking knife couldn't help but tremble. This is the pressure of a profound level weapon. As long as the two guardians capture these two and hand them over to me, these two 9th tier profound armaments will be given to the two of you. Wen Lin hurriedly said. That's good. The two of them laughed out loud. After all, Wen Lin was a saint. If he were to ask for both him and the profound level weapon, it would not be good for them to snatch them openly. Therefore, their enthusiasm was not high. This time, the two of them were in high spirits, and their morale was greatly boosted. Luo Qingyun's face flickered as he leaned toward Yun Xiao and said in a serious voice, "These two are martial sovereigns of the 9 heavens. Are they going to fight or leave?" If the two of them insisted on leaving, they were confident that these people would not be able to stop them. Yun Xiao gave him an indifferent look and said, "They're just two 1-star martial sovereigns. If you can't even defeat martial artists of this level, what makes you think you can fight me?" Luo Qingyun felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Yun Xiao's words undoubtedly told him that without the strength to defeat a 1-star martial emperor, he was not worthy of fighting him at all. Has his combat strength already reached the peak? Luo Qingyun looked at Yun Xiao in disbelief. The latter was looking at him coldly with a calm face. Luo Qingyun could not help but tremble, and a heroic spirit rose from his body as he laughed and said, "You're really a jinx. I've never tried a 9 heavens martial sovereign before." Yun Xiao chuckled and said, "Martial sovereigns can only turn rules into their own use. They are not as magical as you think. The Emperor Qi of the 9 heavens is just one of the 10,000 arts in the world. Your dragon might and this spear are enough to break it." "You're boasting shamelessly." Ugly sneered, the Emperor Qi on his body spread out, and he said coldly, "Ants below the martial supreme realm can just sit at the bottom of the well and look at the sky." Two auras broke through the air and pressed down on the two of them. They were like two huge mountains, and the earth trembled. Not only was the pressure intimidating, but there was also a bone-chilling coldness that penetrated through their skin, wanting to freeze their entire souls. Luo Qingyun's expression changed drastically. This was the first time he had ever challenged the might of a martial sovereign. The bloodline power in his body surged, and a warm current flowed through his body, warding off the cold air. The spear's light was raised, and the weapon essence on the desolate god's moon spear vibrated, pushing away the 9 heavens sovereign qi like ripples. To Luo Qingyun's surprise, just as Yun Xiao had said, his divine spear could resist the Emperor Qi of the 9 heavens. Relying on a 9th tier profound armament, what kind of bird ability is that? The man with snot all over his face sent a cold palm down from the sky, his eyes filled with jealousy. Luo Qingyun took a deep breath and immediately calmed down. After all, he was going to face a martial emperor, so he did not dare to be distracted. He took a step forward and dodged the palm. His spear was as powerful as a dragon as he stabbed forward. He snorted, "You're bullying a martial honor as martial sovereigns, and that's what you call capable?" "Die!" Vulgar shouted angrily. A big axe had appeared in his hand. He spun 2 circles in the air and then chopped down. The power that could split mountains and seas covered the sky. Dragon of spear fighting in the wild. Luo Qingyun's heroic spirit soared to the sky. The spear light swept out a dragon-shaped light and fiercely stabbed forward. Bang! The two profound weapons collided with each other, and an extremely powerful force spread out. The power of the aftermath shot out in all directions. Luo Qingyun suddenly took a step and flew up into the air, deflecting the shock. The rest of the power was also resisted by his true dragon celestial body. Then, the spear light did not weaken, and he flew up again. What? Vulgar was shocked. Even a peak martial venerable would have been half dead from his axe just now, but the other party seemed to be safe and sound? He was both embarrassed and angry as he roared and rushed forward again. The two of them quickly engaged in a fierce battle. Although Luo Qingyun was at a disadvantage from the beginning to the end, he didn't fall. The more they fought, the more powerful he became. All kinds of martial arts techniques rushed out, and even when Lin and Baiming Junjin dodged them. How can he be so strong? Could it be that his dragon blood's power has changed? When Lin's eyes were filled with uncertainty. He could not tell if it was shock or joy. He only felt that it was difficult to calm the emotions in his heart. Ugly guardian, Baiming Junjin said with a solemn face, take this Li Yunxiao down quickly and go help the vulgar guardian. Yes. The ugly man laughed coldly and said, I've been loitering around the Red Moon City's brothels for the past few days. I'm afraid I've exhausted all my yang essence. I can't even take down a 7-stars martial venerable. If he had stayed for a few more days, he would have died in bed. Everyone was disgusted when they heard this. That face that they couldn't bear to look at, his face full of snot, and God knows how many lice there were in his hair. The girl who took his business was probably forced to do so, and had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Eat my big drinking saber. Let's see if your weak body can withstand the power of my saber, even with the help of a 9th-tier profound artifact. The ugly figure flickered in the air with incomparable speed, leaving behind afterimages that were hard to catch with the naked eye. The sound also intermittently appeared in different directions. Suddenly, a saber slashed out from an angle that was difficult to catch, even splitting the space. Aren't you tired of jumping around in the sky for so long? Yunxiao's faint voice rang out. He stood still and waved his right hand, then put his hands behind his back and blocked the blade beam. Bang! The two forces shook, and the weapon reserve spread out. To his horror, he found that Yunxiao's sword also contained the laws of heaven and earth. It completely received his saber force. The two people's confrontation of this move was actually evenly matched. How was that possible? What kind of weapon was this? It actually had its own laws of heaven and earth? Even if it's a 9th-tier profound armament, it's unheard of. The ugly man was shocked. He turned around and retreated, staring coldly at the cold sword in Yunxiao's hand from dozens of meters away, his desire to snatch it growing stronger. He didn't pay much attention to the evenly matched move just now, because he had only used less than half of his strength. This sword is really good. You don't deserve it. I'm taking it. Die, Ugly roared and raised the great drinking saber. His body became one with the saber and he slashed at it. Yunxiao's sword momentum carried the laws of heaven and earth, which was completely the effect of the Yi family's sacred skill. Of course, he did not bother to explain it to the other. He stood with the sword in his right hand, and with a flash of light in his left hand, the great sorrow twilight cloud mirror shone on the ugly man. A beam of mirror light shot out and fell directly on him. What is this? The ugliness was the integration of the blade and the body. Under the reflection of the mirror, he suddenly felt his body freeze and realized that his movements had slowed down. Furthermore, it was extremely difficult to circulate his vital qi. Every movement required a great deal of energy, as if he had fallen into a swamp. Ugly's actions seemed to be in slow motion to everyone. Even his facial expression was slowed down by more than 10 times. Sunset Cloud Mirror, it's indeed the Sunset Cloud Treasure Mirror. It can seal off space. When Lin's face fell as he cried out in horror, young Master Junjin, this Li Yunxiao has many magical treasures on him. Let's attack him together. Otherwise, the ugly guardian will be in danger. Although he was well aware of the power of the mirror's power was also related to the user's strength. Although Yunxiao could not trap a martial emperor in his hand, he could greatly slow down the martial emperor's speed, which was extremely abnormal. He had been confident in capturing the two, but now he was not so confident at all. Baiming Junjin was stunned and couldn't react in time. Logically speaking, with two martial sovereigns making a move, everything should have been easy to capture. He looked again at Luo Qingyun, who was on par with him, and the ugly man who looked like he was swimming in the air. He finally accepted the reality in front of him. He roared and rushed up, shouting, relying on the might of a profound-level weapon, "What kind of skill is that?" He threw away the elegant paper fan in his hand, and a jade sword stabbed out. He was also a 9 stars martial supreme. Under his full power attack, a layer of frost appeared on the body of the sword, and the temperature of the world suddenly dropped. Wen Lin had also lost the leisure to watch the battle. Similarly, his hands continuously formed hand seals. The ground trembled, and, bang bang bang, 3 earth dragons broke out of the ground. They flew around him, and in an instant, the sky was filled with yellow sand and stones. Earth Dragon, strangle. Let's go. Wen Lin cried out, and the 3 earth elemental dragons swept over like whirlwinds. One of them flew across the sky and pounced on Yun Xiao, while the other 2 turned into whirlwinds and swept toward Ugly, trying to save him from the trapped situation. The 2 dragons of the earth intertwined in front of Cho Cho Wu and began to fight fiercely, sending dust and dirt into the air as they rushed toward Yun Xiao. The mirror light of the sunset cloud treasure mirror was blocked by the layers of dirt, and Ugly immediately broke free. He used his jumping movement technique to prevent himself from being locked again. You aristocratic family disciples are all so humorous. Relying on profound-level weapons isn't a skill, but you're bullying the weak with strength and being outnumbered is a skill? The mirror of evening clouds and the frost sword in his hand were all absorbed into his body. He raised his hands, and suddenly, several rays of cold sword chi appeared. 9 northern heaven cold star swords appeared in front of him, forming a complicated formation. They suddenly spread out and surrounded Baiming Junjin and the Earth Dragon. 4 of the newly forged swords even had faint lightning on them, as if they were going to trigger the heavenly tribulation. Fuck, what's this? Everyone was shocked. They realized that the sky had turned dark. They could only see the 9 long swords flashing with cold light. They were connected to each other and formed an indescribable sword array. It suppressed Baiming Junjin's aura in an instant, as if it could kill him at any time. Save me. Baiming Junjin was trapped in the sword formation, and a great fear surged from the bottom of his heart. He felt like a fallen leaf in the sword chi that could be ground into pieces at any time. He didn't even have the courage to resist. What kind of sword formation is this? It can actually trigger heavenly tribulation? It's too fake. Wen Lin was terrified and hurriedly shouted, "Quickly save young Master Junjin. He's in danger." He felt a burst of regret in his heart. He could only blame himself for not bringing enough people. He also felt a sense of anger towards the people of Red Moon City. He said that the city was too chaotic now and there were not enough people. To deal with a mere martial honor, he could send the strong man who could transform into lightning to settle everything. He was really a little worried, so he went to find the people of the Baiming family to reveal his identity. When the other party heard that the other party was a martial honor, they were also careless and only let Baiming Junjin bring 2 one-star martial supremes over. Now, it would be difficult to clean up the mess. The man from Red Moon City was just a small fry, but Baiming Junjin was different. He was a direct descendant of the Baiming family, and his big brother was the head of the 4 prodigies of the North region, Baiming Lai Feng. If Baiming Junjin were to die here, even he would be implicated. Frenzied Blade drinks blood without a trace. Ugly instantly burst out with extremely strong combat power and rushed into the sword formation, killing a way out. He shouted, "Young master, run." If something happened to Baiming Junjin, they would be finished. Ugly had almost unleashed all his power, but it was impossible to destroy the sword formation. Wen Lin's heart was overwhelmed with shock. He looked at the 9 treasured swords that had formed a certain pattern and said in a daze, these 9 sword puppets are all 9th tier profound armaments? How? How is this possible? Seeing a way out, Baiming Junjin was overjoyed and rushed out, crying with joy, "Many thanks, Ugly Guardian." In an instant, he flew out of the sword array through the ugly passage, gave a strong kick, and was about to leave. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Yunxiao coldly and said, "You really have the guts. I hope you can come to the Wind and Moon Hotel's hero gathering in 2 days. I'll have my big brother entertain you well." His body gradually faded as he planned to be the first to leave. This place was too dangerous. It wasn't suitable for a young master with a noble bloodline like him to stay here.